Welcome to the Invite Health podcast, where our degreed healthcare professionals are excited to offer you the most important health and wellness information you need to make informed choices about your health. You can learn more about the products discussed in each of these episodes and all that Invite Health has to offer at www.invitehealth.com/podcast. First-time customers can use promo code podcast at checkout for an additional 15% off your first purchase. Let's get started.
Just over a decade ago, researchers in Japan were studying the effects of vinegar. And an interesting finding came out of their study, and that was that it could potentially help to burn fat. So as a weight loss agent. And this is really a interesting way to think about vinegar, because most of us think about, oil and vinegar for salad dressings, or some people use vinegar as a alternative cleaning agent for, cleaning your floors or your bathroom. But what we now know from this original finding on vinegar is that indeed the apple cider vinegar in particular has a really unique way to kind of promote thermogenesis, which is natural fat burning. So I want to tell you about that today. I am Amanda Williams, MD, MPH, and people are always looking for different ways where you can burn fat. And this has been around for decades now, where people are always trying to find the next greatest thing to help shed some weight. And we know that when it comes to carrying around extra pounds, this can start to be detrimental not only to your overall health, but to your psyche as well. And a lot of people get frustrated because they're trying everything. Maybe you've changed your diet, you're trying exercise, and you're still struggling to lose weight. Well, this may be an option for you. And I say maybe because remember, whenever we're dealing with excess weight or excess weight gain, we always have to try and find the root cause. Why is it that you're having a difficult time when it comes to maintaining a healthy weight? Is it the diet? Is it lack of exercise? Are there underlying hormones that are disrupting everything? Are you on certain medications that maybe are creating this? So you always want to try to find the root cause. But let's talk about this study, because this came back in 2009, and they said that vinegar may be a natural fat fighter. Yes, vinegar. So not just for your salad dressings. And the researchers in Japan found that when they were utilizing vinegar, that they were starting to see that it was helping people from preventing additional weight gain. So they're looking at body fat. So they were looking at people's weight, they were looking at body fat index, or percent body fat, and then your body mass index. And I thought to myself, well, isn't that really interesting? And I remember when the study came out, I thought, well, maybe it's just because, some of the foods that they were looking at, so it has to do with diet. It can't be the vinegar in particular. But now we see more studies that have come out. And this is what's always great about, I always call it food-based scientific research, because you're using something that's coming from nature, and then maybe you're studying it for a particular reason, and then you find out that it's doing something even better than what you thought you were studying it for. And in the Journal of Gen Med in 2006, they came across an interesting finding with vinegar. So this is even before the Japanese study. And they were looking at different medicinal uses for vinegar at that time. But the way that they were zeroing in on this was that it had these anti-glycemic effects. So what does that mean? That means more in terms of the regulation of blood glucose. And we know that vinegar can be sourced from a whole host of different fermentable sources. So wine, dates, obviously apples, grapes, melons, coconut. I mean, you name it. You can just kind of keep going and going. But we definitely know that apple cider vinegar really seems to have this heightened amount of medicinal benefits. So the way that it's actually been studied, and it really is very impressive, like across the board, when we're looking at cholesterol, when we're looking at weight, when we're looking at GI health. So for people who have a lot of GI disturbances, maybe acid reflux, delayed gastric emptying, different things like this, bloating. Certainly we know that those microbiome, that bacteria that live within the intestines, are very much dependent upon, our pH levels. And so the apple cider vinegar has been shown to be very, very helpful in that setting. So whenever we can control our microbial environment, this also will help to support our weight. And then we look at this study from 2006 where they were looking at the glycemic impact. They said, okay, well, we know that it can have these anti-infective properties. So a lot of people can date this all the way back to Hippocrates, where they were utilizing vinegar for different wounds. And so that was known. And then they said, well, what type of an impact does it have on the cardiovascular system? And they started to see that the acetic acid that comes from the vinegar was actually helping to support what's known as the renin-angiotensin system, which is really quite interesting. So they were looking at how it can help with cholesterol, how it can help with blood pressure. They've even looked at this in cancer research, which is really interesting. But this particular study, this was focusing in on blood glucose and how the apple cider vinegar could help to regulate by enhancing the insulin sensitivity to create a more balanced blood sugar. So you weren't having these spikes in blood glucose. Now, there's many different mechanisms by which the vinegar is actually potentiating these properties. One component, we can look at the antioxidant value of apple cider vinegar, but certainly there are other ways that we understand, and it's the different acids that are actually contained within apple cider vinegar and how this is creating an environment to better control our blood glucose. Well, one of the things that we know about weight gain is that we also usually have insulin resistance. So people who are struggling to lose weight generally have elevated cortisol, elevated insulin, hence their glucose is usually always all over the place. So they have a difficult time because that cortisol coming from the adrenals then gets stored as fat. So it's like they can be trying different things, but if they're having this dysregulation that's occurring because of glucose and insulin, they're always going to be struggling. So we know now that the vinegar helps to modulate all of this. So let's look at a study where they gave apple cider vinegar to people to see, is this going to impact their body weight? 'Cause remember the study in 2009 in Japan, when they were analyzing vinegar, they started to see this interesting finding. They're like, wow, the people that had higher intake of vinegar just from their dietary intake, they seem to maintain better weight and they have less body fat. So fast forward and we look at the actual impact of vinegar. And they were able to test this by having people ingest either straight vinegar or giving them apple cider vinegar in a capsulated form. They were assessing body weight, body mass index, the visceral fat, the waist circumference, looking at triglyceride levels, and they found that all of those levels came down in the group that was given apple cider vinegar. So the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because many times people are struggling to try to figure out a way to help with things to promote fat burning in the body. So we know that apple cider vinegar has been shown to have all of these other properties in terms of the immune system, for fending off different infections, for supporting the GI tract, for proper digestion, for maintaining healthy microbial environment, for the cardiovascular system. So why not give it a shot when it comes to maintaining healthy weight as well? And it's doing this via that cortisol insulin connection. So I wanted to bring it to your attention because many times people will ask me this question is, I just want to take just one thing, what's one thing? And it's going to vary, as I mentioned, from one person to the next, because you always have to try and see, is there something else going on? Is there a thyroid problem? What is the main reason as to why you're struggling with that weight? So it is always an individual thing. However, I would say because of the multiple benefits, the multiple medicinal benefits that we've known all the way since dating back to Hippocrates for apple cider vinegar, I would certainly say it would be advantageous regardless of your reason as to why you want to use it. But if you're using it to target belly fat, this may be a good way for you to help the body promote healthy weight loss. So definitely check it out on our website. It's our apple cider vinegar. That is all that I have for you for today. I want to thank you so much for tuning in to the Invite Health podcast. Remember, you can find all of our episodes for free wherever you listen to podcasts or by visiting invitehealth.com/podcast. Now, do make sure that you subscribe and you leave us a review. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Invite Health, and we will see you next time for another episode of the Invite Health podcast.